absolutely delighted that Gary is going to come up and just share something about his heart, about the work that he does day by day, sometimes without many people realizing it. And certainly we need to know about it, Gary. Tell us about Ignite and Big Ideas. Where did that come from?
So I used to work for the Boys Brigade. I was one of their full-time workers. I was honored and a privilege to do that. But after I'd been working for them for a little while, some of my best friends in the Boys Brigade told me that I should leave, which is not really the sort of friends you want, really, is it? But actually what they were saying was, this is great historical organization that the full-time workers spent more time kind of maintaining the organization, where my heart and the heart of my kind of partner in ministry, Nigel James, who also worked for the Boys Brigade, was for evangelism and discipleship. And so they suggested that we were set aside specifically to be involved in a ministry of reaching people, and then once they've been reached for Jesus, actually investing in their lives so that they had the best life possible by following Jesus, not just as a decision, but as a disciple. And so that's kind of, 18, 19 years ago now, we set up in South Wales, and we used to have a little freezing cold office that was kindly given to us by Grangestown Baptist Church. And there was just Nigel and I, and subsequently we've been honored and blessed by the way that God has used our ministry. So, yeah. And, you know, we were given the verse that you'll know to take the gospel to Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth. And we knew that Cardiff was our Jerusalem. And when we say Cardiff in our world, we're actually talking about CF. So anything with a CF postcode. So you're in it, right? And then there's Judea, which is Wales. And then there's Samaria, because everybody... and for us, Samaria was England, because everybody hated the Samaritans. So, and then there's the ends of the earth. And I don't know what you imagine the ends of the earth might look like. For us, I kind of fancied America. It looks a really nice place, lots of nice people, lots of nice Christians with lots of money. But actually, our ministry's really flourished amongst the poorest of the poor. We've got a huge work in India. We this week just opened our 20th church in India. Which I'm excited about, but I'm still slightly stressed because I've told them before I retire, whatever that means, we're going to build 50. So we've still got quite a long way to go. We've got a church. We've got a school that's got 350 children from the very lowest caste. We've got a children's home with 20 orphans in it. We feed and clothe people who suffer from leprosy. We invest into the life of 120 pastors in a ministry out there. And so that's in India, and then we've got various works in Africa. Our most significant work is actually in Liberia. 2004, Centenary of the Welsh Revival. We did an event in Cardiff. About 3,000 people came to it. It was amazing. 250 people made first-time decisions for Jesus that night. In the audience that night was a young Bible student from Liberia. He was in Wales for 6 months. We didn't know he was there. He came and he heard about this thing called Ignite, and something lit in his heart. He went back home and he prayed about it with his wife, and he got in contact with us after a year, and he said, could I use the principles that you're using in Wales in Liberia? We said yes. Then we looked on a map to find out where Liberia was. Found out it was in sub-Saharan Africa. It really took off. I went out there a few years ago. We've got hundreds and hundreds of workers out there, most of whom who don't have jobs. So their identity, if you went up to them and said, what do you do? They would say, oh, I'm an Ignite Center manager, or I'm an Ignite program director, or I've got more staff in Liberia than we've ever had in our whole history in Wales. It's for such a time as this. We've now got workers in every single county in Liberia. They've all been trained in Ebola awareness. They go around and they teach people how to avoid Ebola. They provide materials, they provide training, they provide simple things like buckets and disinfectants. And in the quarantine villages, and most villages where Ebola is are now quarantined because all the hospitals are full, they provide food so people don't need to leave their homes. So just tiny little organisation in Wales is just doing kind of crazy things that I can't claim any responsibility for because they're happening in Africa, as well as kind of week on week. I'll just take a couple of minutes. Thanks for your questions, by the way. You're flying in with those questions. So.
I thought it would be like this.
Yeah.
We do live and work within 50 yards of each other every day.
Yeah. Our offices are in Dinas Powys. And we've got all sorts of stuff going on that affirm young people in their faith. But two of the key projects, let me just tell you about that we're about at the moment. One is we have an incarnational project. We're encouraging people to become downwardly mobile and to move from wherever it is they live into Tremorfa, which is in the west of the city of Cardiff. Really tough housing estate. And we've got 3 couples who've moved in there already. We're going to find another 3, so we'll have 12 people there. There's a significance in the number 12 you might recognize, before we go on and do our next project. And what they're doing is really modeling what Jesus is and who he is and reaching their neighbors in that area. And it's a brilliant project. So that's happening 24 hours a day. The people actually live there. And we're doing youth ministry, and we do Sunday schools, and we do mums and toddlers groups, and all sorts of different things going on there. And then, of course, the other thing that we do, which is crazy busy at the moment, as you can imagine, is we run Cardiff Street Pastors, probably the most significant, most sophisticated street pastor scheme outside of London. And we've got 58 people trained to be street pastors, and they were out yesterday after the match. I was out the week before after the New Zealand match till I got home about 4:45 in the morning. I've never seen Cardiff like it. It was like crazy. And we just go out and we just be Jesus on the streets.
Amen.
You know, there's no point in actually preaching, and I'm a preacher, so there's no point in preaching to people when they're drunk. Do you know that? Because faith comes through the renewing of your mind, and in order for your mind to be renewed, you need to be in a place to receive that renewal.
Right. Exactly.
So what we do is you make sure they get home safe. We be Jesus to them. The church has left the building. We go and be church on the streets. And it's remarkable. Crime has come down. Violent crime has come down. Cardiff has never been safer, despite what the South Wales Echo tells you. It's never been safer. And we have an opportunity to speak into the lives of very high-level people in the council, the police, the ambulance service, the health board, and business owners. We've got a dinner, fundraising dinner we do every year. It's going to take place on Wednesday this week. We've sold about 170 tickets. Probably 120 of them have been bought by people who run or own bars, clubs, and restaurants. You know that Jesus came to sit down with tax collectors and publicans. I'm not big on the tax collectors, but the publicans we know really well, and we're bringing Jesus into that situation. And on a regular basis, probably once or twice a month, I'll get a call from one of them saying, "Can you come in and talk to me? We've got a situation. We know that you'll see it from a different perspective from us, and we'd like you to tell us how you perceive this challenge that we're going to have." So a way of actually chaplain and pastoring the people who work in the nighttime economy. So we're kind of busy, Ken. Thanks.
Wonderful, wonderful. Just on a domestic note, you and Leslie, family?
Yeah, so...
How do you manage to cope with all of the toing and froing?
Well, the great news is when I met my wife, we were already adults, we were already in ministry, and I remind her on a regular basis that she married me for adventure. So every time I say, I'm going to have to go to do, and occasionally, very occasionally, she'll go, "Oh," and I go, "Don't forget, you married me for adventure." And then I'm off. She's an amazing woman of God. I'm blessed. I say to young people, and young men in particular, you've always got to marry somebody where when you look at them, you think, how did that happen? she is so out of my class. If you have that kind of attitude, then it keeps you on your toes. Do you know what I mean? So
I know.
So I'm fitter than I've ever been.
Yeah.
And I'm healthier than I've ever been, partly because, I've got to keep myself on my toes because my wife's a fantastic woman of God, and she supports me in all I do. I got 2 kids, 18-year-old son, which I'll talk to when I actually begin my preach. I'll tell you a little bit about him. And then my daughter, who's 22, and she's probably leading worship in City Temple this morning. So they're going on great.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I wish I'd met you when I was 15, when I was in the Boys Brigade. But my daughter was 15 when she led me to Christ.
Wow.
And then, in spite of me, then my wife came to Christ.
Fantastic.
So you've had a few years start on us, but we're trying to catch up. Bless you. Thank you.
you.
Thanks.